Hey guys, we are back working on the 1950 Buick Special two-door. Trying to get the brakes freed up. Got this side so it'll move, but the other side's still being a little bit stubborn. That's something we're gonna have to get freed up before we can take it for its first drive in 55 years. But one other thing I'd like to do is I'd like to get in the trunk. And the trunk doesn't open. We've got a lock, but we don't have any keys. Likewise, we've got the door lock, fortunately not latched, and we've got the ignition, all of which need to have keys made for them. I went to my local key supplier and picked up several blanks. Of course, there's no teeth cut on these, so they're not going to open anything, but they do fit in the locks. That's a good thing. GM used essentially the same key blank for all vehicles from, I believe, 1936 through 1966. So 1950 falls right in the middle of that time period. What do you say we try doing a little bit of lock picking? I've had these lock picks for 3 or 4 days. They came with some practice locks. I am not a locksmith. I have never really done much in the way of lock picking before. The first of the practice locks that I tried, it took me all of about 15 seconds to pick. I brought the lock home from the glove box to try and pick it, and I'm able to pick it with no problem. But it only has 4 wafers in it, whereas the doors, the ignition, and the trunk all have 6. So they're going to be a little bit more challenging to pick. I've got a rake. I've got a turning tool. Had it. Okay, that is all the way turned 90 degrees. And a lot of pressure on that tool. Ho ho! There we are. We didn't even break any picks. Okay guys, in all seriousness, I have absolutely no idea what's in this trunk. I have not opened this before. This is the first time I've been able to get into this. I'm bringing you guys along for the ride. What do you figure we're going to find in here? Anything interesting? Who knows? If you never see this, then there's probably something that it wasn't a good idea to be showing on YouTube. But hopefully, maybe we'll find some car parts or something useful. Let us see what we find. Well, that's off a seat. That appears to be an animal house of some sort. Some kind of ceramic insulator and a couple of blocks of wood. An eviction notice for somebody. Some keys might have been nice. Oh, we got coat hooks. I think those are supposed to be inside the car. But really, you know, we got a little bit of rust here. Spring perches. A little bit in the back. But not bad. That is actually really nice. Bird feather, bird wing, copper pipe. Interesting. I don't know what would have been living in here. Squirrels maybe? I don't know. Probably you can see that they got in around the back seat. So the good news is, if you happen to have one of these Buick Specials, you can conceivably get through the back seat to pop the trunk. That is not too shabby. Well, we got that one out. Let's see if we can get the ignition to pop out of there. The trunk picking went so well. Let's give this ignition a try. Now, I have no idea, get the spider webs out of the way, I have no idea whether the pins are up or down. This is where things start to go a little bit wrong for me. See, the GM sidebar ignition is considered by a lot of locksmiths to be nearly unpickable. Of course, I didn't know that when I started into this. Let me set up on a workbench and I'll show you guys why these things are so difficult to pick. This is the spare ignition switch or ignition key housing that I picked up, and it's got a key. You'll notice this bar here. This is called the sidebar, and I don't know how well you can see that, but it's sticking out 1/16 of an inch or so, maybe 3/32, and is held out because the wafers inside the lock are not engaged. We stick the key in, and now this sidebar is retracted. This assembly lives inside of a cast aluminum housing that has a groove milled into it or cast into it that the sidebar engages in. So when that sidebar is out, it catches hard on a flat side of that groove and makes it so that you can't turn the ignition. Stick the key in and now it can turn either direction. The reason that these are nearly unpickable is the standard way of picking a lock is to put a little bit of pressure on it so that the pins are under a shear load, and then you bump each pin or each wafer with the pick, and with a little bit of side pressure on it, it'll jam that pin, and you just would go down the 6 pins and eventually would pop. But because of the geometry of this sidebar, all you're doing is putting a side load on the sidebar and jamming it in place. So when you go and wiggle the wafers, even if you were able to get them to line up, you have no way of pushing this sidebar in. What locksmiths end up doing to be able to pick these locks is they completely remove them from the vehicle, like the entire housing, drill a small, like a 1/16 inch hole that aligns with the sidebar, and you take a paper clip or whatever and push pressure in so that you're held in against the sidebar. Let me grab a pick. So far, this is my favorite pick. We hold pressure in, and then we come and we drag on the wafers, and you might be able to see they're kind of popping up there. The sidebar is collapsed. So that lock is now picked. So what we need to do is get the lock barrel out of that out of the dash of the car, and then you can see here the tops of the wafers, and there's kind of a pin here. This would be considered, you know, it's fairly up close to the top. It would probably be considered a 1 or maybe a 2, and then varying heights and that corresponds with what you see here. So that tall wafer is probably lined up with that spot on the key right here, and then the lower down ones are along here. There are 6 spots on the key that correspond with each of the 6 wafers. And basically what we need to do is take one of the key blanks and take a file and essentially cut the teeth profile that we decode out of the lock. Where I got into a problem is trying to get the lock out of the car. And there's 2 holes here that you can see on this one, because this is kind of a generic lock, and you can see they line up with either side of this bar. And depending on the lock geometry, there's kind of a spring clip that follows along and engages against this lock bar from one side or the other, depending which direction the lock is installed. And what you have to do is stick just a paper clip in the appropriate hole. This paper clip appears to be a little on the heavy side to go through there. But anyways, you have to stick it through the hole and convince it to push on that lock pin. That then allows you to roll this and disengage the lock bar and get it out. This is kind of a moot point at this juncture, because what I noticed in the dash, and hopefully I can find it in the footage and I'll show it to you, is there are 3 ignition positions in this car. There's the center, which is run, there's this way, which is off, and then there's this way, which is lock. The ignition is currently sitting in the run position, and if we roll it over to off, we can go back and forth without even having a key in the ignition. The only thing we need the key for is to be able to go into the lock position and thus be able to unlock it. According to the service manual, what we need to do is we need to put the ignition, I think it's sitting this way in there, but we need to put it in the run or in the off position, press on the little button with the paper clip, and then roll the ignition over a few degrees past, and it should slide out. And when I go out to work on the car this weekend, that is what I'm going to do. But let's continue on with the footage that I have recorded where I'm struggling with this lock. I'm going to try putting a little bit of lubricant in there. That might help. Normally the rule of thumb is don't put lubricant, like oil-based lubricant, into locks, because it gets all over your keys, and then of course you're putting your keys in your pocket. But let's face it, we're trying to pick the lock here. I kept going for about another 20 minutes or so here, but never did make any more progress getting this lock to pop out. We will be successful now that I've read the manual and know for sure that I was headed down the right path. That's just a quick one for this evening. I'd call that a success. We've got that unlocked. When I'm out on the weekend, I'm going to take the trunk latch assembly off of here, and hopefully I'll be able to figure out what we need in the way of a key. Likewise, I want to do the same thing to either one of the door handles or to the ignition. I've tried picking the ignition and it's not cooperating. The door handles and the ignition are supposed to be keyed the same, so maybe we'll try and pull the door handle off of here and see if that's going to do the job for us. Anyways, thanks a lot for stopping by. Greatly appreciate you taking time to watch the video. If you got this far, can you give me one of those thumb ups? Give me a like. If you haven't already done so, consider subscribing to the channel. Love to have you come back and see some more. Maybe ring that bell icon so you get notified when I publish more content. And we'll catch you guys in the next mess.